everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham 2023. After our visit to the Marvel Comics universe last week via Marvel Champions, we're moving back to the Cthulhu mythos this week for our yearly Thanksgiving tradition. It's time to start Christmas in Arkham this year with the Prelude, the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. In this game, we're switching sides from where we usually play the investigators to this time playing the Ancient Ones trying to get summoned. We have 3 playing groups scheduled for our tournament, and the winners of those groups will then move on to the winners group on Sunday, where the winner of that group will be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. With that scene set, let's move over to the main game area and introduce everything. The solo mode works slightly different from the multiplayer game, where in the multiplayer mode you only need one fate piece, which are these Cthulhu statues. In the solo mode, you use them both. We'll be controlling the darker fate piece with each ancient one. The investigators will use the light fate piece. Our fate piece starts off at the other worlds. The investigators start off at the streets of Arkham. We start off with one cultist and one investigator at each location. As far as what the locations actually do, the other worlds are where we want to go to try to sacrifice our cultists to summon the Ancient Ones. We have a slightly stronger effect for each action if we have control of it, and I'll explain more about how control works when we get to that point. So I'm just going to pull out a set of quick reference cards. There we go. That's everything I need. Okay. So as I mentioned, the other worlds are where we go to sacrifice our cultists to try to get summoned. The museum lets us take one of the 2 artifacts, which will reveal the first 2 for our first playthrough when we get through the rest of the locations. The ceremony is where you go to get a gate card, which you can use to move to any location, and you get to activate your Dark Gift, aka your Ancient One's special ability. The Streets of Arkham work slightly different in the solo game. In the multiplayer game, we'll move that text out of the way. It might be a little bit hard to see, but you pass investigators out and immediately raid them. Whereas in the solo game, the Streets of Arkham, when you move there, you return 2 investigators from your lodge back to the supply, and having control of these Streets of Arkham would allow you to sacrifice one of your cultists from the location to remove an additional investigator. The Gathering gives you 3 cultists back, and you can move one. I'll talk about what each control location does. And then the library lets you draw 3 spell cards, which are these cards over here, and you can prepare an additional spell this turn using the astral symbols, which are on the locations. You may also notice that there are symbols at each location. Those always count toward the spells that you can prepare. We'll explain more about that when we actually look at the spells that we have. But first up, let's reveal our artifacts that are going to be at the library to start the game. First artifact we have to choose from is the Amulet of Nephrin Ka. We can exhaust it to change a lesser elder sign to a tentacle. Discard it to change all lesser elder signs to tentacles. That could be handy when we get a big summon. Next up, the Silver Key. Exhaust to move one cultist from any one location to any one other location where you have 1 or fewer cultists. Discard to move the fate piece to any other location. So those are our starting artifacts. Let's go meet our first Ancient One. As you can see, the summoning track is going to be in a circle. When you get it up here, does it start on the 1 or does it start on that space? I think it starts on that space. Yes, it does start there. When it gets up clockwise over to 9, you've managed to summon your Ancient One. But based on the spin of the wheel on Sunday, Yig is our Ancient One leading off the entire tournament. His Dark Gift when we move over to the ceremony is choose any one location, Carpet of Serpents. Roll 5 dice. For each cultist or for each tentacle or Cthulhu rolled, return 1 cultist to its lodge. For each elder sign rolled, move an investigator to another location, so we can keep cultists so we can potentially move investigators away from where we need to go. or return them to the lodge, which is a little bit dangerous, but we can work with it. So we have a starting hand of 3 spell cards. First on a red, Yig will find Gate to the Past, taking 2 blue and a white. At the end of any other cultist's turn, you may sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge to take the current location's basic action. So wherever the investigators move their fate piece to, we can take that basic action. On another red we have Find Gate, using a blue and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card, regardless of whether you have a gate card already. During the move phase of this turn, you must use this gate card for movement. Normally we can only have 1 gate card. That would allow us to bypass the limit. And finally on a blue we find The Stars Are Right, taking a white and 2 yellow. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an Elder Sign. Gain 2 cultists from the Abyss. Gain 2 cultists and become cursed. Becoming cursed is a very dangerous thing in this game, because with the solo mode, if you gain 5 curses, your cult succumbs and you lose. Also, if you gain 10 Elder Signs, you lose. And if we recall, based on tiebreakers, we would much rather lose by curses than Elder Signs. So with that, I think we're all set to move over to the main board, move back over to the main board to get into this playthrough. So let's move over there and see what Yig's doing. Looks like we can get all the location there and their astral symbols in shot. It might be a little bit hard to see the astral symbols we have at the gathering, but I'll always explain what we've got going on there. So just kind of doing a little bit of long-term... before we get into that, we do need to go through the monster reserve. That is a thing I forgot about during last year's Christmas in Arkham. We can summon monsters because I've got the Beasts from Beyond. Is that what it's called? Beasts from Beyond expansion shuffled in as well, as we would if I was having Shubni Gudath as part of the tournament. So our first monster that we could possibly choose from is a Dark Young with 2 symbols to activate. On your turn, you may move 1 token to place a Dark Young on a location. Move all investigators there to any 1 location, then roll 3 dice. For each Elder Sign, or for each Tentacle, destroy 1 investigator. For each Cthulhu, destroy 2 cultists. Investigators can't be placed or moved into a location occupied by a Dark Young. That seems like an absolutely terrible monster for the solo mode. And a Hunting Horror having 4 tokens. Place the Hunting Horror on this card. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hunting Horror on any lodge. When investigators or cultists are added to the occupied lodge, roll 1 die for each. On a Tentacle or Cthulhu, destroy the investigator or cultist, then return the Hunting Horror to this card. If Hunting Horror returns to this card and there are no more tokens, remove it from play. Some maybe suspect monsters there, but we won't get into that too much right now because we don't have anything that lets us summon monsters. For Yig's first turn, we'll move over to the library, discarding a blue, which will put an investigator from the lodge on the museum, along with an investigator there. Then I believe we roll for temporary control after that, right? Yes. So we roll for temporary control. We would need a Cthulhu to get temporary control. I'm using my smaller dice tower because it is much less imposing on the board than the main tower would be. So we'll give it a roll for temporary control. I might want to change out the smaller dice tower, though, for green on green could be a little bit suspect. Doesn't seem like it's too... For now, I'm hoping by Sunday, by the time we're ready for the winners group, I'll have a new dice tower, because I really don't like that green on green now that I look at it. Looks like we can see everything well enough, though, but we do not get temporary control. But since we are at the library, we will get to take one of the artifacts, which we will take the Amulet of Nephrin Ka, setting up a little bit for later. And then replacing that, will be the Jade Statue. You discard this. If you're at the other world, reroll up to 2 of your dice. Then we don't have anything that we're preparing for 2 blue, I don't think. No. We could use a white potentially, but that won't help us. So since we have less than 3 cards in hand, draw 1 card or back to 3. So we'll be drawing back to 3. On a yellow, we'll find Alhazard's Vengeance, taking a white, blue, and a green. Reveal when another cultist takes an action that places at least one investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. That'll be a total movement card in the solo mode. Investigator's turn, they'll discard a green card from the top of the deck to move their fate piece to the gathering and place an investigator out. Looking at our turn, actually moving to the library wouldn't be a terrible thing because it'll let us work through the deck a little bit more. So I'll discard this Gate to the Past on a red to move out to the library, which will let me draw 3 cards, and I can ready an additional spell, but I doubt I'm readying anything with 2 red, but let's see what we find here. On a green we find Mind Switch, taking a red and a blue. Swap one of your cultists from any one location with any other cultist from any other location. I'm going to use that a little bit different in the solo game, where I think I did this last year as well, where I used this to swap a cultist from any one location with an investigator from a different location. So if we need to move somebody over there. Then on a blue we'll find Enlighten the Investigators, taking a red and a white. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. That'll be a total movement card as well. And on a white, we find a Dark Pact, taking a green and a yellow. Become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. Okay, and like I said, we could have rolled for temporary control, and I also need to place a cultist and an investigator. I almost forgot about that. Technically, I should have placed the cultist, then the investigator first. We'll go ahead and roll for temporary control, even though I don't think it'll matter. Well, it might matter. We'll see, though. Because the library's basic action, the library's control action would actually be pretty good. Not that it matters, because we will not get temporary control. So, like I said, I don't think we're readying anything with 2 red. No. So we'll draw another card from the deck. On a yellow, we'll find Call the Wicked Ones, taking a red and 2 blue. Summon a monster and become cursed. Oh, joy. Okay, so the investigators will next... I'll move that out of the way. The investigators will next discard another green, but because they're already there, they'll actually move out to the other world and place an investigator there. Looking at my turn, I'm not sure I want to prepare that. Summon a monster and become cursed. So I'll actually discard this Mind Switch on a green to move down to the Gathering, which will let me place a cultist from my lodge and another investigator from the supply. I don't add the 3 investigators to my lodge because we put the third one there. If there are 3 initially when we move there, then we would add the cultists there. So we'll roll for temporary control of the location. Tentacle will not give us temporary control. So what we can do at the Gathering is we'll gain 3 cultists from the Abyss back to our lodge. And then we can move 1 from the Gathering to any other location. So I'll move 1 up to the other worlds, getting ready to do some summoning. Then I will draw on a yellow, I'll find Coerce the innocent, taking a white, green, and red. Move up to 2 investigators from one location or lodge to any lodges. That'll be a total movement card. I should have checked if I was preparing anything with a white and a green, but I was not. The investigators will then discard a yellow to move to the streets of Arkham, putting another investigator out. Then looking at my turn, if I believe I can use 2 cards, 2 location cards as a wild to move anywhere. At least that's the way I've done that in the past. Alternatively, the plan said any 2 matching astral symbols as a wild to move the fate piece to any other location on the altar. I got a lot of yellow, which I could use as a wild. I think I'll use 2 yellow. I've got some pretty bad spells here. Alhazard's Vengeance I'm going to use as movement. I'm also going to use Coerce the Innocent as movement, so that gives me 2 yellow. That will actually let me move back to the library. I'll place another cultist there and a 3rd investigator. Then I'll roll for temporary control. What I did, I put the dice tower back over here. Give that a roll. And we will get temporary control this time. So, okay. So I'll draw 3 cards and I can ready an additional spell at no cost. Additionally, I can ready a spell at no cost. Additionally, actually I can ready 1 additional spell this turn, but I can also sacrifice a cultist from the library to ready 1 at no cost. So let's see what we find here. On a yellow I'll find Broken Seal, taking 3 yellow. Destroy any 1 Elder Sign, and I may sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. Next, on a red I'll find Transmogrify, taking a blue and a white, changing any 1 rolled die to any face. If the new face is a tentacle or a Cthulhu, become cursed. And on a green I'll find an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 green. Advance 1 on the summoning track. You may sacrifice one of your cultists at the current altar location to move 1 more on your summon track. That might actually be the spell we ready. And I think we will ready. We will sacrifice a cultist to ready an Ancient Stirring. That'll be our no cost. Then with 2 red and a green, I don't think we're readying anything. Nope. Okay, so that was the end of the turn that I readied that, which means now I'll draw a card. So on a green I'll find Transmogrify again, this time taking a white and a yellow. The cultists will discard another yellow. Since they're already at the streets of Arkham, they just move up to the other worlds. And they'll place an investigator out there. We'll bring that out of shot. Then looking at my turn, since I have to move to a new location, I had a green that I wasn't that sold on. Except I don't want to take 3 cultists right now. Although I wouldn't get raided right away. I wouldn't get raided until I have 5 investigators in my lodge. So I actually will discard a Transmogrify to move down to the Gathering. That's on a green to move down to the Gathering. I'll gain these 3 investigators on my lodge. Then I'll place a cultist and another investigator from the supply. So that goes there. I'll roll for temporary control. Bringing the dice tower right back in shot. Which I won't get with a lesser elder sign. So I'll gain 3 of my cultists back from the abyss, and I'll move another 1 up to the other worlds. That might be worth a trip up there for some early progress on the summon track, but that's going to make That's going to make a very risky play. So on a green spell, I'll find... actually, before we draw that, a green, a white, and 2 yellow. I don't think I'm readying anything with those astral symbols. Actually, you know what? I am going to ready something. I'm going to ready a Dark Pact, which will let me become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. And my plan is I'm getting ready to try to go up to the other worlds and do a little bit on the summon track. So that's all discarded. Then I'll go ahead and cast my Ancient Stirring that I readied from Yig, so from going up to the library, which will let me advance 1 on the summon track, and I will sacrifice a cultist to advance another on the summon track. So now I'm up to 2 on my summon track. That is... oh, right. Okay, so that's... so I discarded the Ancient Stirring. This is for the cultist's turn. They'll be discarding a green, trying to move to the Gathering, except they can't move there, and they're already at the other world, so they have to move to the streets of Arkham. But that will give Yig his first curse. Remember, 5 and he's out of the tournament. Well, 5, I would say he's not... I wouldn't say he's out of the tournament, but it won't be looking good for him at that point. So moving back to Yig's turn, since we already moved the Investigator's Fate piece to the streets of Arkham, and then put another Investigator there, I think we are going to bite the bullet, though, because I'll discard 2 yellow to move up to the other worlds, which will give me these 3 Investigators, and I'll be getting raided at the end of my turn. But I'll place a Cultist there, and an Investigator. So now up at the other worlds, I can roll... I get to roll a die for every Cultist I have, and because I have control of the location, the other worlds means every Cthulhu I roll, I can return a Cultist. I believe it's to my lodge instead of to the Abyss. Right? Yes. For every Cultist roll, or for every Cthulhu rolled, return 1 of my Cultists from the Abyss to the lodge. So I want to see Tentacles and Cthulhus here. I get 1 Cthulhu and 3 Elder Signs. I could discard it now to turn all of those into... I could discard the Amulet of Nephrin Ka to turn all of those into Tentacles, and I think I will. I think I will discard that to change all 3 of those lesser Elder Signs. I'm going to move those up there so I have a discard pile for the artifacts. So I'll change all of those into Tentacles. Then the 1 Cthulhu gives me one of my Investigators back. So that will advance Yig 4 on his summon track for 4 cultists. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then we ready a spell if possible. We've got a wild, a blue, and a yellow there. I'm actually going to use the blue and the yellow to prepare a Find Gate. So we've got that. Then we'll draw back to 3. So on a green we'll find... The stars are right. We saw this earlier. This time it takes a red and 2 blue, and I have to discard the blue and the yellow since I actually prepared a spell there. Then I am getting raided. This could be bad. I've got 6 Investigators right now on my lodge. What I want to see here, ideally I want to see Tentacles or Cthulhus, because that means they leave without effect. I don't want to see any Elder Signs, especially Greater Elder Signs. Because lesser Elder Signs mean they give me an Elder Sign, but they leave. Greater Elder Signs means they stay on the lodge, giving me an Elder Sign as well, but I can become cursed to prevent all of those Elder Signs. So, I've got 6 dice in here. Let's see what happens. That's 2 Elder Signs and 4 Tentacles, which means 1 Investigator stays. All 5 of the others leave. I think we can live with that roll. That's 2 Elder Signs, but 5 of the Investigators are gone. So we're moving steadily toward that. With that, we're coming back to, I believe this was my hand. Yes. Okay. The Investigators are discarding a blue card to move over to the museum and placing another cultist there. Get the dice tower out of the way now. Do I want to use that find gate for movement right now? I don't think I do. No. So I think we're going to discard a green at the... Wait. I moved to the wrong fate piece. I moved to... Hold on. What did I Oh! Okay. No, never mind. I was up at the other worlds. Wait. I'm confused now. Okay, they discarded a blue. I think I moved their fate piece. I moved my fate piece. Their fate piece was going to the museum. Okay, now that we've got that straight, I'll discard a green. Oh, wait. No, okay, I was at the... No! Now I'm a little bit confused. I think this is what I was drawing. I think I drew... Okay, I gotta watch some footage now that I'm confused, and plus I'm gonna be needing to take a small break in a second anyway, so I'll be right back. I've got everything straight now. I just grabbed the wrong fate piece. Everything is good as is. So the investigators just moved from the streets of Arkham up to the museum. As for what I'm doing, let's see. I don't think there are any spells out there that I really want to prepare. So I think I will discard a... I think I'll discard a Stars Are Right at the other worlds to move down to the Gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I'll roll for temporary control, which probably doesn't really matter all that much, but why not? We'll roll for temporary control anyway. We're actually not that far from summoning Yig, to be honest. So actually we want that Elder Sign to be there. We're definitely headed for it, though. We don't get temporary control of the location, which is fine. For this purpose, I didn't really need it. Yig will get 3 cultists back. And then he can move 1 out to the other worlds, which is all fine with me. And then drawing to a blue, I'll find Rack, taking 2 yellow, to destroy 1 cultist, 1 investigator from any 1 location or lodge. The investigators will then discard a red card to move to the library and place an investigator. I could take the Jade Statue if I want to set myself up, but that's going to trigger... No, that won't trigger a raid, actually. I'm going to discard and enlighten the investigators, then a blue to move up to the museum, which will place the 3 investigators on my lodge. I'll then put 1 out and put an investigator out, and then I do have control of the location, so I could sweep the artifact... I could sweep the artifact display clear, and I think I will. So I'll discard, well, actually I kind of wouldn't mind having the Jade Statue, because I'm going to need to get back to the other worlds at some point. So I think I will take the Jade Statue, actually. And then replacing that will be... the mistranslated manuscript. Discard to cancel a raid. Choose another cult and initiate a raid on their lodge. Then roll a die. On an Elder Sign roll, become cursed. Then I'm going to sacrifice 2 cultists from the museum to destroy the 2 Elder Signs that I picked up. Then I will draw on a yellow card I'll find. Power Surge, taking a wild. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. That could be useful. Then the investigators will discard a white card to move down to the ceremony and place an investigator there. Whoop. Not knocking over my cultist. Then I will... I could use a yellow to destroy 2 cultists on the lodge. That actually might be worthwhile now that I look at it. I haven't been paying attention to... If the fate piece ever moves to the streets of Arkham, a raid occurs immediately. I'd need to be aware of that. But I'm going to... do I trigger a raid? I don't like the idea of triggering a raid, because moving to the streets of Arkham when I know... Well, actually I think moving almost anywhere... Actually moving anywhere is going to trigger a raid no matter how I do this. Question is, which spell... I really want to keep Power Surge, so I think by that choice, I'm almost stuck discarding Transmogrify, a red, which is actually going to send me to the library, pulling these 4 cultists over. That's going to be an 8-die raid. That is very, very bad. I'll put a cultist out at the library and an investigator. I control my current location, so... Actually, this might be worth burning my... burning my Dark Pact. So actually, I think I'm taking a huge raid from this. So I do have control, which means I can draw 3 cards, and I can sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no additional cost. So, or at no cost. So on a white I find Sign of the Brotherhood. Taking a green and 2 red, that might be useful. Then on a green we find... Actually, let's go through Sign of the Brotherhood. Choose one other cult and return 1 of their cultists from the abyss and place it on their lodge. You return 3 of yours and place them in your lodge. Actually, that's not going to be that useful right now. On a red we'll find... Witch's Curse, taking a blue and a yellow. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. And on a green... Coerce the Innocent, taking a white, a yellow, and a red. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodge. Okay, and I believe when I'm preparing spells, I can't use 2 symbols as wilds, right? Astral symbols in your hand can't be used. Are you ready? 1. Yeah, I'm trying to find out. Symbols in this way are cannot be used. 2 symbols of the same type can't be used as a wild to pay the cost for spells. That's what I thought. Which means I can't prepare the Power Surge, which would be insanely useful right now. And I don't think I have anything particularly good. Actually, I take that back. I will sacrifice a cultist to ready this Sign of the Brotherhood. So I'll ready that. I drew my 3 already. Then I will draw a spell card, so on a red I'll find Enlighten the Faithful, taking a blue, white, and yellow. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other location. Those are gone because I used them to ready a spell. And then I'm getting rated with 8 dice. This could be very, very hazardous to my health. To the point where I'm probably going to have to burn my Dark Pact, especially if I roll at least 4 Elder Signs. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. Got that all figured out. That result could have been a lot worse. So I'm actually going to just take the 1 Elder Sign, but I'll lose 7 of the 8 investigators I had. I can 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, I can very easily live with that result. That was insanely lucky for Yig. Investigators are up next. They're discarding a green to move over to the gathering and putting an investigator out. Then looking at my hand, do I want to try to move to the other worlds right away, or what else do I have ready here? Gain 3 back. That would be an Elder Sign penalty to get more. Well, yeah, more back. Well, actually, I think that's more coming from the lodge. I can't move to red. I think I'll just discard a rack to move back to the museum. We'll get that out of shot. I'll put a cultist and an investigator down. Reorganizing my dice. I'll roll a die for temporary control. Not that I think I need it. No temporary control there, but I will definitely take the silver key, and I'll immediately exhaust it so I can move a cultist from a location to any other location where I have 1 or fewer. So I'll move from the streets of Arkham up to the other worlds where I have 1 other cultist. Then we've got to replace the silver key, so I'll replace that with Wizard's Grimoire. My minimum hand size is 5. So when I would draw to 3, I would instead draw to 5. Which I'll be drawing a card. So on a blue I'll find Mind Switch, taking a green and a white, swapping cultists and investigators. The investigators will then discard a blue, trying to move to the museum, but since my fate piece is there, they'll move to the other world instead, placing an investigator there, and that will be Yig's second curse. I'm actually going to bring these over here since they're not used in this way except in the solo game. So that'll be Yig's second curse. Then looking at what I'm doing, I will discard this Chorus the Innocent isn't... Well, this Chorus the Innocent, isn't that useful. I should have checked if I was preparing Actually, I've got 3 spell slots already. I'm going to discard this Chorus the Innocent on a green to move to the Gathering, which will bring these 3 investigators to my lodge, but it won't initiate a raid. Cultist, investigator. Temporary control really doesn't matter because I only have 1 cultist there anyway. Oop. Let's get that die out of there. No control, but again, I don't need it for this purpose. 3 cultists to my lodge from the Abyss, and I'll move 1 up to the other worlds. And then on a green, I'll draw. Actually, before we do that, am I readying anything on a blue and 2 yellow? I am not, and I'm full up anyway. So drawing on a green, I'll find Upside Down, Call of the Wicked Ones, taking a white and 2 yellow. I'll then discard a blue for the investigators to move them back to the museum, which will put another investigator out, and give me just a second. I'm going to leave the camera on for this, but I am going to open the window because my camera's starting to overheat a little bit. Not too bad, though, I don't think. It's still at least recording, so now you're going to probably start hearing... start hearing some rattling from the blinds. It's actually a fairly nice night out. I'm kind of surprised. Okay, so with that, right, I didn't get raided because I didn't have enough cultists in my lodge. I'm now going to use my Find Gate. Where is it? Not that one. Here we are. So now I draw a gate card, which I have to use for movement. I'll discard it here to move up to the other worlds, which will place my 4th cultist on the lodge, or from the lodge, and the 3rd investigator. I don't take the cultists or the investigators to my lodge because there were only 2 there. I do have control, so Cthulhu's come back. But now we're rolling 4 dice. Yig is trying to get himself summoned here. So this is a 4 dice roll. If all of these are summons, whether it's tentacles or Cthulhu's, Yig will get summoned. That's 2, and I'll discard the Jade statue since I'm at the other worlds to re-roll up to 2 of my dice. I'll re-roll these 2 Elder Signs. Actually, I only need 3 to get summoned. I'm at 6. I'm a derp. But that will work. So Yig will advance 1, 2, 3 on his summon track. He'd take his 3rd curse, which will only matter for purposes of tiebreakers. But Yig has been summoned, so I'll make notes on my iPad. Yes to being summoned, had 1 Elder Sign and 3 curses. So Yig actually putting up a very strong performance to lead off Christmas in Arkham. So with that done, I will get the decks reset and we'll get ready for our second Ancient one. Yig put out a very strong performance to lead off the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, so we'll see if the other 2 Ancient ones can follow his lead. First, we need to set up the artifact display. First artifact we find for our next Ancient one is the Necronomicon. When you gain this artifact, become cursed, exhaust to add a wild for readying a spell, and discard to move the fate piece to another location. And the Forgotten Tome. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library, draw 2 spell cards. One thing I should have talked about is when an effect says move the fate piece to another location, I rule that interacts with either fate piece. Then the Monster Reserve, which you saw Yig didn't touch at all. So these 2 Ancient ones probably won't either. First up, the Hound of Tyndalos with room for 2 tokens. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hound of Tyndalos on any summon track of any lodge. The cult summon track cannot advance while being occupied by the Hound of Tyndalos. To remove the Hound of Tyndalos, the cult may either choose to become cursed or visit the ceremony and remove the Hound of Tyndalos instead of activating their Elder God's Dark Gift. The Hound of Tyndalos is then returned to this card. The Hound of Tyndalos is removed from play when it returns to this card and there are no more tokens. I'm not sure what we'll do for that for multiplayer, but basically it's just been don't touch the Monster Reserve, and the Hunting Horror is back once again, as we saw this earlier. So, now that that's all set, let's go meet our second Ancient one in this group. Our second Ancient one in this group, and I'm getting some tokens out that we'll need for that, I believe they go this way, is Ithaqua, the Windwalker. His Dark Gift is Wendigo. When he moves to the ceremony, remove all Winter Squall tokens, which are these tokens, from the altar. Shuffle them all, draw 3, and look at them. Place the tokens on 3 different locations face down. Destroy an investigator or cultist from each of those locations. When any cult activates a location with a Winter Squall token, reveal the squall and apply the effect. Then discard the token. So I'm going to rule that when the investigators move to a location with the Winter Squall, I'm just going to resolve it, then discard the token. So the first card's up for Ithaqua. On a white, he'll start with find artifact taking a green and a yellow to draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. On a red, he'll find Transmogrify to change any 1 rolled die to any face. If that new face is a tentacle or a Cthulhu, become cursed. And on a blue, Enlighten the Investigators. On a white, taking a white and a red. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. Okay, let's move back over to the altar and get into Ithaqua's playthrough. Since Enlighten the Investigators is what I like to call El Hat Garbaggio, Ithaqua will discard that to move to the museum, which that should be clear of investigators, although I'll leave 1 there. And then we'll place a cultist out there as well. Temporary control I don't think really matters much, but we'll roll for it anyway. No control there, not that I'm surprised at all by that. So what artifacts do I want? The Necronomicon is insanely good for spells, but it means Ithaqua is eating a curse right away. That might still be worth it, actually. I think we are going to go ahead and take that. Which means Ithaqua will take his first curse right off the bat. So I do want to kind of be somewhat mindful of that, and then replacing the Necronomicon at the library is the Enchanted Cane. Exhaust to reroll one of your dice. With a blue and a yellow, are we doing much of anything with that? You know what? Actually, we are. We'll exhaust the Necronomicon to add a wild for readying a spell, and ready Find Artifact, which will give me another white. Right, then we'll discard the entire column. And then Ithaqua will actually be drawing 2 cards to draw back up to 3. Get the investigators out of the way. On a green, he'll find an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 green. Advance 1 on the summoning track. You may sacrifice one of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on the summon track. And on a red, bring it up closer. Alhazred's Vengeance, taking a blue, yellow, and white. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. Let me look at that red. That's not that good either, so I could probably use those for movement. We'll then discard a red for the cult for the investigators to move their faith piece to the gathering, which will place an investigator there. Actually, they moved to the library. Let's move them to the right location, Phoenix. The gathering is where I want to go this turn. And by discarding 2 reds, like so, I can. So I'll move to the gathering, which will place another cultist on the location along with an investigator. I'll bring that into shot, and we'll roll for temporary control. Which a Cthulhu will give me temporary control, so I can move any number of my cultists from the gathering to any other location. So I get 3 cultists back from the abyss, which will go on my lodge. And then I can move both of these cultists up to the other worlds. The Necronomicon should be unexhausted, but I'll technically re-exhaust it, so I can immediately prepare an Ancient Stirring that we just drew earlier. And I don't have any more cultists to sacrifice there, but that's fine. Ithaqua will be drawing 3 cards. On a blue, he'll find Call the Wicked Ones, taking a green and 2 white. Summon a monster and become cursed. On a white, he'll find Rack, taking 2 blue to destroy an investigator from any location or lodge. And on a green, Call the Wicked Ones again, taking a white and 2 yellow. Speaking of yellow, the investigators will discard a yellow to move to the streets of Arkham, which will place another investigator, and it would trigger a raid immediately, except I have no cultists, except I have no investigators in my lodge. So from the gathering, that green card should be gone since I used it to prepare a spell. I'll discard a white at the gathering to move to the ceremony, which will put a cultist on the location along with an investigator. What does Controller give me? I can sacrifice 2 to advance 1 on the summon track, and that might be worthwhile, but let's see if I get control first. Because I need temporary control to be able to sacrifice cultists. There's the lid. I do not get temporary control, which I don't mind on there. Anyway, I do get a gate card, which I'll probably be using for movement shortly. And then I get to activate my Dark Gift. So I've got the Winter Squall tokens right here. Shuffle those, give them a cut, and we'll draw these 3. We could probably just leave them face up because we'll know what the effects are. First winter squall we get. Move all investigators from this location onto your lodge. I think the way we're going to do that is return them probably back to the supply. Next up, discard your hand of spell cards, then draw 2. And all cultists sacrifice 1 location from this location, from 1 cultist from this location, then destroy 1 elder sign from their summon track. I guess we'll go investigators there. Sacrifice cultists there. And discard your hand of spells at the ceremony. Alright, then with a white... Actually, the Necronomicon should be exhausted. With a white, a blue, and a wild, I'm not readying anything there. So I'll draw back up to 3 cards. On a white, I'll find... Call the Wicked Ones, this time taking a yellow and 2 red. Not that useful. The investigators will discard a blue to move to the museum and place another cultist there. Looking for my turn. I don't think any of my cards are that good right now. I can't move, the problem is I can't move, looks like I'm stuck discarding a green, which is actually a Call the Wicked Ones. I don't completely mind that, so I'll move there, which will place another cultist and an investigator there. Then I'll roll for temporary control, but it's not going to do anything here because I only have the 1 cultist there. I get temporary control, but again, it doesn't matter because I only have the 1 cultist, moving straight to the other worlds. Then with a green, a white, and a wild card. Actually, I've got 2 green and 2 white as well. But I'm not going to do anything with either of those. Right. Yeah, we're not going to do anything with those. Drawing on a white or on a yellow we'll find. Enlighten the Faithful, taking red, white, blue. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 cultists of your 3 of your cultists from any 1 location to any other location. Ooh. I might want to try to ready that next turn. Let's see if the deck's going to cooperate with me. The investigators are discarding a red to move to the library, which will trigger this. So all cultists sacrifice... They'll put another investigator out. All cultists sacrifice 1 cultist from this location, then destroy 1 elder sign from their summon track. So I'll sacrifice 1. They'll destroy 1 as well. Again, try to do something with the solo mode. And I don't have any elder signs there. Let's see, for my turn, the wild, so I need some combination of red, white, or red, blue. Fortunately, I can discard this Call the Wicked Ones at the gathering to move up to the museum, which will actually get the 3 cultists there, which I don't mind that because it's not going to trigger a raid anyway. Then I get a cultist and an investigator. I do have control of the location, so I could discard and replace the artifact deck, which I won't do. What I will do, though, is I'll take the enchanted cane, which will let me reroll 1 of my dice. Then I'll replace the artifact deck, replace the artifact with the Jade Statue. If I'm at the other worlds, I can reroll up to 2 of my dice by discarding it. Then for red, 2 red, blue, and I'll use the Necronomicon as a white to ready and immediately cast Enlighten the Faithful, which will let me move up to 3 of my cultists from any 1 location to any other location. So I'll move these 3 cultists to the other worlds, which will give me a lot of dice when I move up there, which could be which could be next turn potentially. Then I'm drawing 2 cards. First, on a blue, I'll find Shadow Walk, taking 2 red and a white. At the end of my turn, I can sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. And on a white, I'll find Enlighten the Faithful once again, this time taking a blue, green, and yellow. And I don't think there's, well, the Gathering would be close, but I don't, my only way to move there is via my gate card. The investigators will then discard a red, but since they're already at the library, they move up to the other world where they're surrounded by my cultists. So they'll move there. Then looking at my turn, I could go to the Gathering, but I don't... Or I could go to the Ceremony, but I really don't want to discard my hand of spells. I especially don't want to lose that Enlighten the Faithful. So I think... that Shadow Walk, I think I'm going to try to protect. Do I go to the library and try to... Actually, I could go to the streets of Arkham to get rid of 2 of these cultists. And I think that's what I'll do, even though that's going to cost me an Enlighten the Faithful, which I really like. So I'll discard 2 white. Those 2 red should be gone, since I used them to prepare a spell. And I'll discard the 2 white to move... Oh, I don't want to move to the streets of Arkham, because that's going to put all the investigators from this location onto my lodge. Although moving to the Gathering is going to trigger a raid. I guess I'll just move to the library then and keep digging for spell cards, especially since I see a red on top. Investigator and a cultist. I'll roll for temporary control, but I don't think I'm going to get it. Nope. That's a greater elder sign, so I don't get temporary control of that. But I do get to draw 3 spells, and I can ready an extra spell for free. Or I can ready an extra spell. On a red, I find Broken Seal, taking 3 red, destroy any 1 elder sign. I can sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. Next up, Cubes of Power, taking a blue and a green. When I'm rolling dice, I can add 2 additional dice to the roll. And I'm on a blue. Alhazred's Vengeance, we saw that earlier. I can ready an additional spell this turn, but I have to remember I have another white and a green there. So, I think with that in mind, let me look at my spells here. Got an Ancient Stirring there, and a Find Artifact, which I actually will exhaust the Necronomicon to give me, what do I need? I'm going to need that for a blue, since I've got the green already prepared. And I'll prepare Cubes of Power. I'll then cast Find Artifact to let me draw an artifact from the deck. So Ithaqua will find Wizard's Grimoire. Minimum hand size is 5, so that means I'll draw up to 5. And with a green, a red, and another red, and a white. Yeah, I could go red, red, white to prepare a Shadow Walk, where I can sacrifice a cultist and immediately become cursed to take in another turn. But I need that fate piece out of the way. But I think what I'll do is I'll actually cast my Ancient Stirring as well, which will let me advance 1 on the summon track. Then I can sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to advance 1 more on the summon track, so that'll bring Ithaqua up 2. Alright, then I'm drawing up to 5, so I'm drawing 3 cards from the spell deck. 1, 2, 3. On a red, I'll find a rack, which we saw earlier is not useful. On a white, Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a yellow, gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. And on another white, Dark Pact, become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. Then thanks to drawing 3, the investigators will discard a blue to move to the museum and put another investigator out. We're at 2 and we'd be rolling I'll unexhaust the Necronomicon. If I were to go for it here, I'd be rolling 8 dice, and I could re-roll one of them. I think I gotta go for it, so that white should be gone because I'm terrible at remembering that. I'll discard this gate card to move up to the other worlds, which will place another cultist and an investigator. Since I control that by a country, since I have 8 cultists up there to 3 investigators, I do control the location outright. So when I roll 8 dice on this, any Cthulhus mean I get them back. But more importantly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If 7 of these are summons, then Ithaqua gets summoned, and he's on track to advance to the winners group on Sunday. Plus, I've got a reroll there. So let's see what happens here. One, 2, 3. That was a pretty terrible roll, but I'll exhaust the Enchanted Cane to re-roll. An Elder Sign result, and get nothing. So that's 3. So that's 3 That's 3 cultists summoned. 1 returns to my lodge, which means I get to advance 3 on the summon track. 1, 2, 3. Then drawing 1 card. Actually, let me see if I can prepare a spell. I can actually if I exhaust the Necronomicon. Actually, yeah. We'll exhaust the Necronomicon to get for a yellow to prepare a Dark Pact, so I can become cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. Is there anything I want to cast right now? I don't think so. I think what I'm going to need to do, though... Actually, you know what I could have done? I could have done Cubes of Power, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm actually going to remember to discard the cards there. And then I prepared... Oh, I think I prepared... Which one did I prepare? Oh, I prepared Dark Pact. So now I'll draw back up to 5. And on a red I'll find... Call the Wicked Ones, taking a blue and 2 green. The investigators will then discard a blue, trying to move to the other world because they're already at the museum. That will give Ithaqua a second curse, though, which will then move him to the streets of Arkham since somebody's already there. They put another... They actually net lose 1 because the Winter Squall at the location would trigger. But we also get rated with 3 dice. So hopefully Ithaqua can dodge a bullet here. Although he's got a Dark Pact prepared, so that might be worth... That might be worth using here, especially to keep in control of the tiebreaker here. Oh no, you don't. Whoa! It's getting breezy here. We do have to keep an eye on his Elder Signs, though, because you know what? He can't take any to advance outright. So he's going to have to become cursed via Dark Pact to prevent gaining those 2 Elder Signs. Which means he loses 1 of the investigators, but he'll lose the investigators, but he won't take any of the Elder Signs. Then we'll ready that, and we'll ready his artifacts. Is it worth tossing the Necronomicon to move the Fate piece? He did become cursed, though, so I think he took... I think that'll be his 3rd curse. Do we risk it at this point? Because what we have to do is we have to discard the Necronomicon, and then immediately move right back to the other worlds. I think that's probably worth the risk at this point. So he's going to discard the Necronomicon to move his Fate piece to the library, because why not? Then... then he'll discard 2 red to move right back to the other worlds. He's got to risk it. Which will bring the 3 investigators right back. But it'll put an investigator on his lot, on the location, and another cultist out there. Since he controls the location outright, he'll also cast Cubes of Power to give himself 2 additional dice. So he'll be rolling 8 dice. Now we're in a situation where 1, 2, 3, 4. If 4 of these are summons, Ithaqua will be in control of Group 1. So there's our 8 dice going into the cup. And let's see what we get here. Well, I like what I see there already. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's exactly enough. Which means Ithaqua will sacrifice 4 cultists. 2 would come back to the lodge if we're doing this by the book. But 1, 2, 3, 4. Ithaqua has been summoned. Get over there. Yes. Ithaqua took no Elder Signs, but 3 curses. So by tiebreakers, Ithaqua right now is in the driver's seat in terms of this group. So I'll get everything reset, and we'll get set up for our last Ancient one. We're just about set for our last playthrough. Everything is getting green this time for the changing of the Ancient one. First artifact out in the display is the Skull of Lore. As a exhaust to roll 1 die. On a Cthulhu, discard the Skull of Lore to advance 1 on your summon track. On a greater Elder Sign, become cursed. And Forgotten Tome, which was out for Ithaqua earlier, but he didn't take it. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library, draw 2 spell cards. Then looking at the monster reserve, first up we have Amigo. With 3 tokens, 2 of them having artifacts on them. On your turn, instead of playing an astral symbol, you may discard 1 token to move the fate piece to move the fate piece to another location, and place Amigo there instead of a cultist. Amigo are considered cultists, but count as 2 for purposes of control, but they can't be sacrificed. After a token is discarded and Amigo are placed in the location, if an artifact is revealed, place 1 artifact from the top of the artifact deck face down in the current location's astral column. The next cult to ready a spell there takes the artifact. And the Hunting Horror, which we've seen earlier but ignored. So let's go meet our last Ancient one for this group. The namesake of the Cthulhu mythos faces a very tall task at this point. Ithaqua just got summoned with no Elder Signs but 3 curses. So in order to win this group outright, Cthulhu has to get summoned with no Elder Signs and fewer than 2 or fewer curses. His dark gift to help him along that path is the stars are right. Move 1 of your cultists from the ceremony to any 1 location. Then destroy all investigators or 1 cultist of each other cult at that location. So we'll be flattening all investigators. As for our spells, on a blue Cthulhu we'll find Mind Switch, taking a green and a white, which we could prepare if we go to the ceremony. That's swapping a cultist from any 1 location with another cultist at a different location, but we'll be swapping investigators around. And we've got 2 spells on yellow. Necessary Evil, taking a wild and a blue, which we can't prepare right now. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses. And Broken Seal, taking 3 yellow. Destroy 1 Elder Sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist to the current altar location to destroy 1 more Elder Sign. With that, let's move over to the altar and see what Cthulhu can do with his playthrough. Time is not going to be on Cthulhu's side here, so he's going to discard 2 yellow to move down to the ceremony right away. We'll place a cultist and an investigator. The question is, do I want temporary control here? Because that'd let me sacrifice 2 cultists to move 1, but it would also turn off. I'd be able to either activate my Dark Gift or use the temporary control ability, but we're not going to roll for temporary control with that in mind. So we'll get the gate card. Then we'll move a cultist from the ceremony to the other worlds, and we'll destroy the investigators there. The investigator there. Okay, Then we do have a spell that we can prepare there with a white and a green, which we'll do. We'll prepare and immediately cast Mind Switch. Actually, that was a bad idea. I'll pretend we destroyed the cultist at the library instead. So I'll swap a cultist from any one location with an investigator. So I'll swap the investigator at the streets of Arkham with another cult with an investigator. We'll do that. Then Cthulhu's drawing up to 3 cards because he's got none in hand. Actually, we'll draw the 2 red first. On red, Cthulhu will find Broken Seal, taking 3 red. We actually discarded a Broken Seal earlier, presumably up at the other worlds. On another red, Enlighten the Faithful, taking a blue, white, yellow. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other. And on a blue, Confound, taking green and 2 red. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in your lodge. Speaking of the investigators, they'll discard a red, and I think I was discarding them into the discard pile, but I should have been discarding them to the astral column. They'll discard that to move to the library and place an investigator there. Then for me, I'm going to discard a blue to move up to the library, which will place a cultist and an investigator there. And since I don't like either of those artifacts, I'm going to draw one from the deck. So I will draw Crown of Carcosa. I may roll 2 dice when rolling for temporary control. But if I roll 2 greater elder signs, I become cursed and destroy the Crown of Carcosa. I don't think I care about temporary control there because I don't have any elder signs to destroy yet. Okay, so we did the activate. I'm not readying a spell most likely with the blue and a yellow. I need a white to ready Enlighten the Faithful, which could be good. Drawing up to 3, Cthulhu will find Cubes of Power, taking a white and a blue. When you are rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. Unfortunately, well, I could move back to the ceremony if I wanted to. The investigators are discarding a blue to the library, trying to move to the museum, but they move to the other worlds instead, placing a cultist and giving Cthulhu his first curse, which isn't inherently dangerous yet, but we do need to keep an eye on that. What were the 2 red again? I don't think either of the red... Oh no, Enlighten the Faithful is actually pretty good. But I'm going to discard the 2 red to move back to the serum. Actually, better idea. This will give me the same result. I'll discard a gate. I'll discard a gate here to move to the ceremony. I don't pick up the cultists yet, or the investigators, so I'll put another cultist there and an investigator. Do I want temporary control once again? I don't think I do. I'll take the gate right back, and I get to activate my special ability. Moving a cultist from the ceremony, I'll move up to the other worlds again, then we'll destroy the investigator there. I'm going to have to make a move up there at least once. Okay, then am I readying a spell? Yes, I am. I'm going to use the white and the yellow to prepare Cubes of Power. So I'll get 2 additional dice when I prepare, I can get 2 additional dice once when I roll. Then I'm drawing up to 3, so Cthulhu will draw. Broken Seal, taking 3 blue, which is not that great. Then the investigators will discard a white at the other worlds, trying to move to the ceremony, but they'll move to the streets of Arkham, which will give Cthulhu his second curse. Put an investigator there, and that would trigger a raid, except Cthulhu has no investigators on his location. Do we make a move for the other world right away, or do we wait? Or do we try to wait? This isn't actually great, but I think I'll discard a red at the ceremony to move to the library, which will place a cultist and an investigator. Then I'll bring the dice tower in shot, because here I kind of wouldn't mind temporary control, because that would let me prepare. That would let me prepare and lighten the faithful. Actually, I get to roll 2 dice for temporary control. If either one's a Cthulhu, I get temporary control. Which I don't, because I roll 2 lesser elder signs, but I don't have to discard the Crown of Carcosa. So that goes there. I draw 3 spells, and I can ready an additional 1. On a white, I find Alhazred's Vengeance, which is not that useful at all. On a green, Coerce the Innocent, which I may be using for starting to set up. And on a yellow, Rack, taking 2 white. Let's see, with a blue prepared, I've got another blue, a yellow, and a red. I don't have the white I would need to. I don't have the white I would need to prepare Coerce the Innocent. So I'm not going to be able to do anything with any of that, which means I'll draw a card. So on a white, Cthulhu will find Witch's Curse, which doesn't do anything for us. The investigators, this is bad, are discarding a red to try to move to the library, but they move to the other worlds, putting an investigator out and giving Cthulhu his 3rd curse. 2 more and he's out, and Ithaqua moves to the winner's group, so that could be a potentially dangerous thing there. We'll bring that out of shot. Cthulhu is going to discard a green at the library to move down to the gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator. We'll roll for temporary control. Look at the 2 dice in the cup for the Crown of Carcosa. We will get temporary control because one of them was a Cthulhu. So we'll get 3 investigators, 3 cultists back from the abyss. Then we get to move any number to another location. So we'll move these 3 out to the other worlds. Alright, then we will draw, actually, with a green and a yellow, I don't think we're preparing anything with that. We are not. So on a yellow, Cthulhu will find Call of the Wicked Ones, taking a green and or a red and 2 blue, summon a monster and become cursed. From the other worlds, the investigators will discard a yellow and move to the streets of Arkham, which will put their 4th investigator out, and then immediately would trigger a raid, but we don't have any investigators on our lodge. So, I think with that in mind, Cthulhu will now use the gate to move up to the gathering, which will place another cultist and an investigator. And since we control, I'll move the dice tower for a second, but you can see we control the other worlds by a margin of 7 to 2. We'll get 7 dice, and any Cthulhus that we roll mean we get the investigators back in our lodge. So there's our 7 dice. Okay, so that's 3, which means, and unfortunately none of them come back to the lodge. So we do advance 3 on the summon track. 1, 2, 3. Then with all kinds of spells there, with all kinds of symbols there, I think we've got 2 white, 3 yellow, and a wild, which I will use to prepare and immediately cast Enlighten the Faithful. Since this is basically the end of my turn, well, it's not quite the end of my turn, but it will be soon enough, where I'll get to move up to 3 of my cultists from any one location to any other location. So we'll discard all of that. We'll do this by the book. On a white, yes, on a white, Cthulhu will find Dark Pact, taking a green and a yellow, become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. Then I'll immediately cast Enlighten the Faithful, since it is the end of my turn, and I'll move these 2 cultists from the museum up to the other worlds. The investigators from the streets of Arkham will then discard a red to move over to the library, which will place another investigator. Let's see. Cthulhu will discard an Alhazred's Vengeance, a white, at the other worlds to move to the ceremony. I'm taking a bit of a risk here. I'm moving 3 investigators into my lodge, where if I get raided, I could potentially end up taking Elder Signs, which would pull Cthulhu out of consideration for being summoned. But he's trying to work fast on this. So we put the cultist and the investigator there. Do I want temporary control? Can I risk temporary control right now, or would I rather move the cultist for sure and be able to clear out the other world? I gotta remember to grab Cthulhu's gate. I think I'd rather be able to move a cultist for sure. So I'm going to move a cultist up to the other world, pick off another investigator there. And then on a blue... Oh, this is bad. I just saw what color Cthulhu's coming out with. What the investigators are using. Cthulhu draws on a blue. The stars are right, taking a white and 2 yellow, assigning each cult effects. So yeah, I just saw what color the investigators are trying to use at the library. So they're using a white at the library to try to move to the ceremony, but they're moving to the other worlds instead, which places an investigator out and gives Cthulhu his 4th curse. Unless we find a way to get rid of curses, which I don't think we have here. We don't. Even if you use Dark Pact to prevent gaining Elder Signs, that would be Cthulhu's 5th curse, and he'd be out. Which I can't afford that. So I think we'll discard on a... I think we'll use a... We're going to use a blue and try to see if there's something up at the museum in the artifact deck that can let us get rid of some of these curses. So I'll move the fate piece up to the museum, placing a cultist and an investigator. I'm not going to bother rolling for temporary control because it's curses I need to get rid of right now, not Elder Signs. Cthulhu will draw from the artifact deck. He will draw. Enchanted Cane, exhaust to reroll 1 of his dice. And then we're definitely drawing 1 card. On a green, Cthulhu will find Confound, taking a blue and 2 yellow. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location or destroy all investigators in your lodge. And I just saw what color it is for the investigators at the other worlds. So they're discarding a blue to try to move to the museum, except we're there, so they'll move to the streets of Arkham. The raid won't matter because this is actually Cthulhu's 5th curse. And Cthulhu is the first ancient one, once I move back over here, to not get summoned. He only made it to 3 on his summon track. What that means, though, is that Ithaqua has actually won Group 1, and he will advance to the winners group on Sunday. So that will do it for Group 1 in the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, and Ithaqua has advanced to the winners group. I'm expecting tomorrow to be another busy day on the channel, where we'll have Group 2 of the play-in groups, which will be Atlak Naka, then Azathoth, and finally Nyarlathotep. I'm also expecting to put up the other semi-final bout in the Greatest Boxer Tournament, the title bout 2. Tentatively, I've got that penciled in for tomorrow, but that could change depending on how long Thanksgiving dinner and the play-in groups run. And then as for what else is coming up on the channel, obviously we'll have the last play-in group after on either Friday or Saturday. But Saturday, Mystical Munchies will feature the dessert, Trolltide Candied Apples. That's out of the official Dungeons & Dragons Heroes Feast cookbook. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.